there, good afternoon and welcome to the Diaspora Perspective Show, home and abroad on Voice of the People Television, VOP. I am Chukwuma Okoro and I'm going to guide us through this show in the next 2 hours. Oh well, we encourage you to click on the like button and subscribe to our page. On YouTube, we are Voice of the People TV, and on other social media platforms, we are at VOP TV Live. You can also visit our website for other trending stories. We are at www.vop.ng. You can also be a part of this conversation by calling or sending WhatsApp messages to the number showing on your screen, and the number is 0904-473-2605. Oh well, today we'll be looking at three very important issues, and one of them is that Nigerian government has declared that it will partner with China for the production of military equipment here in Nigeria. And when we move away from that, we look at the impact of the demolition of the landmark research bid, and its impact on the drive for foreign direct investment embarked on by this administration. And when we move away from that, we look at a very scary issue, very serious issue that is coming from Sunday Igboho, as he says, Igbo, Yoruba, and others should go their ways if Nigeria is not working. Oh, well, let's bring in our guest. I'll be joined in the studio by Mr. Shegu Shopito. Shegu Shopito is the chairman, Accountability, Candor, and Transparency Network. He'll soon be here. But virtually, we have been joined by the Flagship. Flagship is a clinical research operations lead and business entrepreneur based in Atlanta, Georgia. We also have KJ. KJ is in media production and expert in training and joins from Maryland. We also have Sho. Sho is an IT expert with interest in international politics and development studies and joins from the United Kingdom. We also have Forefathers. Forefathers is an engineer with interest in international politics and all of that. Oh, well, gentlemen, you are welcome to this show.
Thank you for having me, and good morning.
All right. Good morning. Good afternoon from us here. Welcome, KJ.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Good to have you, Sho. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mr. Okoro. Good afternoon to Mr. Shopiton, who is in the studio, and good afternoon to all your viewers in Nigeria and across the world.
He's here to join us. He's on his way.
Oh, he's here. Okay.
Us in the course of the,
in advance.
Okay, but beyond those three important topics, there are also other issues that trended in Nigeria within the week. And one of them is that on January 8th, 2025, that is this year, the Nigerian military confirmed that 6 soldiers were killed during a clash with Boko Haram and ISWAP militants in Borno State. Major General Edward Buba, the army spokesperson, reported that the military successfully engaged in a gun battle, resulting in the deaths of 34 insurgents who launched pre-dawn attacks on a military base in the Damboa district of Borno State. Now, the militants ambushed troops returning to the Sabongari base using trucks and motorcycles. However, the soldiers were able to repel the attack with support from the Civilian Joint Task Force and local vigilante groups. Fighter planes from Maiduguri also retaliated against the fleeing insurgents, leading to additional militant casualties. Now, just shortly 3 days or 4 days after that, there was another attack on the Joint Military Operations Base in the same northeast region in Yobe State. You know, Northern Nigeria has faced ongoing violence from jihadist groups since 2009, with more than 40,000 people killed and around 2 million people displaced due to the conflict. Now, the situation remains dire as armed criminal groups continue to threaten security in the region. Oh, well, that's one of the issues. Should I lump them together or we treat them? Okay, let's treat them one after the other. Now, let me come to you straight, Sho. Look, what do you think is going on? I mean, we have it's more like we have a very serious contest, you know, with non-state actors. If they are bold enough, they have the effrontery, the audacity, you know, to target our military bases. It's more like it's no longer some kind of asymmetric war. It's like they want a battlefield duel with us. What's your reaction to all of this and the fact that Nigeria is always saying, look, we are winning the war against terrorism and insurgency? What's your reaction to this boldness by the insurgents?
For the question. I think it speaks of the gross incompetence over the years. I know to pin on President Tinubu, who cannot be exempted, you know, because he is part and parcel of APC. And one of the reasons why they came in 2025, they sold their ticket on change. They said, you know, someone was going to tackle security, the other was going to tackle economy. That's between former President Buhari and former Vice President Oshibajo. So this has not just happened overnight. We've allowed this to fester for too long. And I think it's about time that Nigeria as a state took this seriously. We cannot have non-state actors attacking our military bases, attacking our, post where our military men are. They might not be doing as much as we want them to do, but they're still keeping us safe. Because I wouldn't like to think what Nigeria would look like without these military men. As much as we criticize them, I think they're still, doing some level, they're still providing a level of protection for Nigerian citizens. So I think the Nigerian state, and this stops at the table of the president, we need to be ruthless. We need to make examples of people who are caught. We need to publicize it, because I've had a lot of Nigerians ask the question, name a top Boko Haram operator that has been caught and sentenced in the last 5 years, and you struggle to find information online. So I'm not saying that it's not happening, but if it is happening, the government needs to publicize this to give confidence to the citizens of Nigeria, because this incessant attack on our military men can no longer continue. I saw an interview by the Chief of Defense Staff. I think his name is Christopher Musa. I'm not sure when the interview took place, but it trended during this week, where it was saying almost helplessly. And I understand that, as a top military personnel, it was being coy. He didn't want to give up all the information he had, but he appeared very weak, very, almost like helpless, almost like crying for help, saying that United Nations and calling all these international bodies need to come to the aid of Nigeria to help us. Who is funding the terrorists? We see them with foreign currency. Where are they getting it from? The ammunition they have seems to match, or in some cases, supersede what our military have. So if there's, if there are international fingers, because when you discuss geopolitics, then you start to understand some of these things. So I'm not ruling it out that there are external forces. But if these external forces, if they do exist, Nigeria needs to partner with other external forces. We need to get rid of these people, because, as most of us have agreed, if the country is not secure, forget all this foreign direct investment you're talking about. Forget any type of investment. Nobody's going to come into a place that is not secure. So it's sad, and my thoughts and prayer go to the families of the soldiers who've lost their lives in the defense of our dear nation. But I think the Nigerian federal government, especially the president, need to come out talking tough and let their actions match their words and decimate these people once and for all.
All right, thanks very much. Sure. Now, KJ, can we have your quick reaction on that trending topic?
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Go ahead.
All right. Thank you so much. Listen, this is not the first time, not the second time, not the third time we'll be hearing this, and we're going to continue to hear it because we are not sincere with ourselves. The military is not sincere with themselves. My only pain is that people's lives are being played like a pawn in chessboard. You were able to trace the people who were funding end bad government. You were able to trace the people funds coming to the IPOB and all. You are able to trace even the people you so-called Yahoo boys who are working, but you can't trace this one. You are able to monitor people's phone calls, but you are not able to monitor that of the Boko Haram insurgents. It is so pathetic. I listened to the interview of the general, and I felt so terrible because, we know generals in Nigeria, what generals have been able to do. The generals who have now are more like, with due respect to him, like paper tigers. We are talking about calling on foreign organizations to come and help you in your local environment, where you are more, the terrain much better than any other foreign power is going to come, and are not able to handle these people. You are able to go mount, road blocks and checkpoints in the east. You are able to send army, formations to the east to deal with what, a perceived enemy that you are not even seeing. But you are not able to handle this retired army that has been, tormenting the North for the last 10 years. It beats my imagination. Where do we lay our emphasis? Okay, if you lay our emphasis on the wrong part, you are not going to get results. Like someone says, when you are heading toward the wrong direction, speed is not an advantage. So what are you people doing? Why do you want to separate the army and put more of your fighting force down east, in the south, where there's no action, not to this level, and leaving the place where people are vulnerable and being attacked every day, And then you are talking about drones. You are talking about how you have been able to decimate. And in the next time the drones are attacking you, my brother, we're not still ready. When we are ready, the Nigerian army will take down this so-called Boko Haram. Thank you, sir.
All right then. Thanks very much, KJ. Now, Flagship, let me come to you. I want you to give us a quick reaction to the issue in contention now.
Bro, you know, it beats the imagination to hear about what is going on in Nigeria. But at the same time, it's not far-fetched, the truth. When you claim that you catch these terrorists, and rather than go through due process and prosecute them as required by the law, you immediately take them into your army bases, train them, show them every one secret you have and every one of your military ideas, give them unrestricted access to your weapons and your technology, so to say. Then tell me why they would not turn around, come back, and with so much precision attack your bases and take out Nigeria's greatest who are defending our land. It is sad to say that the Nigerian military, whoever is giving them these ideas or whoever is in charge of logistics in the Nigerian military, needs to be questioned and maybe even let off their position. The Nigerian military cannot find insurgents and kill them without killing civilians. However, the insurgents can find the base and with drones tactically take out soldiers and military facilities and light up the base. And guess what? They do this on bikes, motorbikes. Let me add to KJ's list. The Nigerian military is able to sweep in into Okwama village and clear out all defenseless men, women, and children who were not involved in any of those catastrophes that was caused. But yet they are asking the United Nations to help them to figure out who's supporting these insurgents. I believe the United Arab Emirates not long ago gave a list of about 400 names to the Nigerian government to say, hey, here are the people that are sponsoring this act in your land. What did they do with it? And here we are asking the United Nations to come help us. In summary, this is what I believe. I believe the hands of the military is tied. They know what to do, but they are just told not to do it. Until they get themselves together and start to take decisions that mean well for the nation and the people of the nation, then this would be repeated occurrences that are avoidable and can be stopped. But it will not. We'll continue to hear about it until the right thing is done.
All right, thanks very much, Flagship, for your very insightful thought. Now, let's come back to the studio where we have been joined by Mr. Segun Shokpeto. Segun Shokpeto is the chairman, Accountability, Candor, and Transparency Network. Segun, good afternoon and good to have you.
Good afternoon, Chukwu.
Good to see you. You're looking fresh. What's the secret?
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Happy New Year.
And Happy New Year to my brothers.
Yes, very well, very well. You're welcome.
Thank you.
Now, we are discussing the issue of the attacks, by ISWAP and Boko Haram on Nigeria's military bases. The first one was in Maiduguri, where they attacked the Nigerian military base, and in the course of the shootout or whatever, 6 soldiers. We lost 6 Nigerian soldiers. And 3 days after that, they also attacked Joint Operations Military Base, also in Borno State. And the question will be, these things happen in a space of like 3-4 days, 1 week, when the Nigerian military said, look, we have acquired Turkey drones, to flush out insurgents. And 2 days or 3 days after that, militants now terrorists now use their own drones to attack our military bases. What does that speak to the level of how we manage insecurity in the country? Is it some form of, you are trying to assure of force, so that the insurgents or terrorists will run away? But what we see is a counter reaction to that particular track.
Well, I mean, look, it's extremely unfortunate that we now find ourselves at this juncture. Don't forget that not too long ago, about a year and a half or thereabouts, these same militants, these ones were bandits, shot down, a military, I think it was a helicopter.
Yes.
Somewhere in the northwest. So it's sad that we are now at a point, the Nigerian state, the all-powerful, almighty giant of Africa, cannot take down what at some point we had been told was just a ragtag of dissidents. This is like, unbelievably, this is 15 years and counting now since we've been at this insecurity and insurgency problem. 15 years. Who would have thought when this thing started somewhere around 2010, 2011, that would now be here in 2025. And not only do we still have Boko Haram attacking military bases, they are now using drones. Not only do we have Boko Haram attacking military bases, we now have militants, we have bandits, in places like Kaduna, in Zamfara, in Sokoto. We now have Lakurawa, who is a new phenomenon. We've got kidnapping still very rampant in the southeast, and parts of the southwest. And it just appears as if it's a metastasis. It's like a cancer that has really, really spread, and we simply are unable to perform the surgical operation to take it out anymore. When I heard that report, I was a bit concerned when I heard drones. But then, looking further, I found that the drones that we're talking about may not be the very sophisticated military-grade drones that you would
but it was able to kill some people.
Yeah, I mean, they strapped grenades to these basic drones. I saw some pictures. These basic drones, like I've got one like that, and then they strap grenades to them and then drop them in droves on the base. So that will still do some damage. But at least it's not as sophisticated as I had initially feared. Unfortunately, look, this whole thing is all boiling down, sadly, to corruption. I listened to the Chief of Defense Staff speak on Al Jazeera just a few days ago.
Yes.
And in that interview, if you listen carefully and if you listen to some of the things he did not say, you find that he acknowledges that there's corruption in the whole process. The reason, in my opinion, and based on some of the information that one gets from people on the field, is that people are making money from this. And until we decide that the national interest and national security concerns will supersede the vested interest of a few people, maybe high-ranking people, both in the military and outside of it, then we may find ourselves continuing to fight this battle.
I'm happy that you mentioned the interview that Christopher Musa, our Chief of Defense Staff, granted to Al Jazeera. And if you read between the lines, he came across as someone who is overwhelmed. That's, to me, that's how he came out. And I want you to connect it to the fact that Oluseyi Makinde, the governor of Oyo State, cried out within the week that terrorists who have been displaced from Northwest, there's an influx in Oyo State. Shouldn't that be concerning to Nigerians, that this thing is gradually coming down south?
It is a problem, and it's not the first time. I mean, we do know that there has been attacks in Oyo State, that we've had attacks in Osun State, we've had attacks in Ondo State, in Ekiti State.
And those attacks were more like kidnap,
yes,
but this one is like that terrorists. There's an influx of terrorists who have been displaced from the Northwest. So instead of pushing them back to probably the Upper Sahel, where they are coming from, they are now coming down south.
It's a problem.
Shouldn't that be scary?
It's a big problem, and I think that if we're not careful, we could get overwhelmed. There was a time, that Boko Haram was alleged to have infiltrated Lagos, and there were actually times, in the last few years where even I, as just an ordinary Nigerian, had concerns about crossing the third mainland, based on information that we're hearing at that time. So yes, it's really, really unfortunate. For me, the key point is that Nigeria is bigger than this. We can take this thing down. We can eliminate it. The fact that it's lasted this long is not because of an incapacity. It's because we are unwilling to.
All right, thanks very much. Very well. Let's move on, because we have another issue that is also trending. And Felix Moka, the spokesman of the All Progressives Congress, APC, has denied threatening former Labour Party presidential candidate Peter Obi. Now, Moka faced backlash after criticizing Obi over his New Year message, asserting that Obi had crossed the line. In a statement, Moka clarified that he never intended to issue a threat and emphasized his right to free speech while challenging Obi's narrative. However, Moka accused Obi of spreading disinformation and misinformation and suggested that Obi's online supporters have engaged in intimidation and bullying against those who criticize him. He stated that Obi's claim of threats against him are false and have incited further hostility from Obi's followers. Morka called for Obi to retract his allegations and hold his supporters accountable to their actions. Oh, well, let me come straight to you now, forefathers. I want you to quickly react on those two topics. We need to deal with these issues before we now move into the major topics of discussion. I'd like for you to quickly react to both issues, if you can, in 2 minutes.
Thank you for having me, and greetings to everyone. Regarding the issue of insecurity, the Nigerian state is not responding how they are supposed to respond to the insecurity threat. And the idea that a lot of people will keep saying that we have enough security forces to deal with these things. We don't. I don't know whether anybody has bothered to plot the graph between the number of security forces you have in your country versus the population and see how Nigeria is completely under-defended. We need to deny those people space. If you deny them space, they won't have the space to plant IEDs or operate in the Nigerian space. And for some reason, our people just pretend as if they don't know what is happening. Our defense chief of defense staff goes online and start complaining to foreigners to help them out. How are they supposed to help you out when you're not helping yourself? We have 200 and something million people in Nigeria, but our military is even smaller than that of Egypt by more than 3 times. How are you supposed, and from what I gather, 80% of our military is defending national assets. Who is going to actually defend ordinary people? So our people are not serious. And if we really are serious about security, we should be looking at 1 million soldiers at least. And the other day, our defense chief of defense staff was saying that we just recruited 5,000. 5,000 for what? Egypt has almost 1 million. And Egypt is half of our population. And Egypt had similar issues with terrorism. Today, do you hear them having such issues? If you go into Egypt, they monitor everybody, monitor everywhere. But in Nigeria, we just act as if we are some kind of kindergarten where people can just come and do whatever they like. And we've left this to get worse. Look at what happened in Syria recently. That is a cautionary tale. If we let this thing remain that way, sooner or later, the people that are funding these people will use them to destabilize our nation even further whenever they like, however they see fit. In terms of the issue with Peter Obi, I don't understand why people keep attacking Peter Obi as if he's some kind of dangerous threat out there. Peter Obi has demonstrated himself to be one of the most civil politicians in Nigeria, for better or for worse. Some people say he should be more aggressive and all the rest of it. But he is the one that told his followers, stand down, behave yourselves. He is the one that his followers keep getting attacked and injured. Even in Lagos during the elections, we all saw how a lot of obedience were attacked, and some of them even lost their lives. But yet, whenever he says anything, so everybody acts as if he's killing somebody. I don't understand for the life of me why common sense cannot reign in that country. Where is the opposition in Nigeria? Peter Obi comes and tries to speak on behalf of the people, and they act as if he is advocating anarchy in the country. So personally, I don't subscribe to people threatening Peter Obi, and neither do I subscribe to people acting as if he doesn't have a right to speak his mind. We need nationalists in that country. If there's an issue in the country, somebody needs to speak up on behalf of the people, especially somebody like Peter Obi that is not advocating any kind of destabilization act. So that's how I'll leave it. Thank you.
All right, thanks very much, Flagship. Now, thanks very much, forefathers. Flagship, let me come to you. I want your quick reaction on the altercation between Peter Obi and Felix Morka. And I'll ask you a very direct question. Do you think that Peter Obi has crossed the line?
No, he has not. The question is there any of what he said untrue? Is any of those statements untrue? He has not crossed the line. Okay, so Peter Obi right now is beginning to become the real formidable force against the present-day government. He has to be the opposition that we need. And you see the effect of speaking the truth. It makes them feel uncomfortable. So that's why they will come out to say he has crossed the line. This is the base of what this present government is doing. It's becoming so autocratic that you cannot say a word against them. Saying one word to oppose them or anything they do is tantamount to trying to take down the government. So no, he has not crossed the line. And I wish he would say more. Maybe that would get them to do the right thing.
All right, thanks very much, Flagship. Now, KJ, to you, is there anything P2B has said that an article Abubakar and Omoyele Sowore, Rabiu Kwakwan, so all the, I mean, Aisha Yusufu, is there anything P2B said that Nigerians don't know and these other people have not said? So why pick on Peter Obi? It looks like the government, does it look like the government is scared or jittery of him whenever he speaks?
Well, two things I want to say, but I'll start from your question. No, there's nothing P2B have said that is strange or have not been said before by other well-meaning Nigerians. Unfortunately, Peter Obi is an Igbo man, and unfortunately, Peter Obi is one of the most feared politicians right now. If you go by the advice of Mr. former governor of Ekiti State, Fayose, who said that Peter Obi is, likely to be a very dangerous candidate when they have to do 2027. Consequently, I think that the APC government, this is my opinion, are running with that. So anytime Peter Obi says anything, there are people who are there available to attack it, to take it down, to bring a contrary view of what he's trying to say. And for those who probably think that Peter Obi said something out of place, I don't know when Peter Obi started crossing the line, because I thought that if there was any line at all, people like Bayo Ananuga has crossed that line long time ago. People like the great MC Olumo, or whatever his name is, they have all crossed the line many years ago, and nobody has done anything to them. So I'm wondering which part of a line that we're talking about now. I don't see that line, okay? And I think Peter Obi, is being very civil. I mean, if I was the one who got the mandate, we'll not be taking a line low. So let me say that he has, just like forefather said, he has been very, very civil and very, very, very civil in his approach and words. So I don't know why anybody should find any problem with him. I think that if APC was being reasonable, they would take what he has advised them and go look at their books and try to use that as advice to better their government, other than looking for a way. And I respect Mr. Moka. I mean, I used to respect him. Because I don't know why they want to destroy themselves, because of APC. This guy is a purebred. Why he has said panning to whatever they are directing him to do is I find it difficult. Please, if anybody knows him, advise him. The Nigerian people used to respect him. Let not spoil his good name by saying all what he's saying. We're not longer fools. Everybody's eye don't open, and nobody will agree for him. I just tell him, make him know.
All right, thanks very much. We no agree for anyone, but no. At least if we only disagree to agree, that's the essence of that's the value of a conversation. Now, sure. Let me ask you, when you live in the UK, and we also know that Kemi Badenoch, the leader of the Conservative Party, is sometimes critical of the Labour Party. Has there been any time the Labour Party people said, like, Kemi Badenoch, you have crossed the line or something like that?
The short answer is no. That doesn't happen in the UK. In fact, every Wednesday they have what they call the Prime Minister's question, where you would have the Prime Minister at the Parliament would take questions from the opposition, and they would ask him tough and direct questions, or whoever's the Prime Minister at the time. They would ask direct questions to their face, and when they finish, they will shake hands and they'll go about their business, because such conversations would only make your democracy stronger. There's nothing wrong in the sort of things Mr. Obi has said. I think the problem is APC are not used to this sort of opposition. Usually by this time, former Vice President Atiku Abubakar will have gone to Dubai to chill, and it will turn up, just before election. So for the first time in a long time, or for the first time ever in APC's life, they're experiencing an opposition that has the staying power. Peter Obi has refused to leave. He refused to disappear from the scene. He is holding their feet to the fire. He's visiting the IDP camp. He's giving a speech on the 1st of January. So it's almost like a parallel government to them, and that worries them. You see, Mr. Shokuton would understand this. Yorubas will say, somebody who goes about, beheading people. When such people see you holding a sword, a machete, they are the most afraid, because they know the danger you can do with it. In 2014, Vice President Oshibajo said something. He's a lawyer. He's a well-read man. So he knows the weight words carry. he re-echoed what their party chairman at the time said, that if they sense that PDP cheat them at the 2015 election, if Jonathan PDP regime did anything untowards, they were going to form a parallel government. There are videos to this. Former Vice President Osinbajo said they, APC, if they feel cheated, they would form a parallel government. Seun Okinbaloye of Channels interviewed him afterwards and said, "Are you standing by that?" And he said, "Yes." And he said, "Oh, it's happened in many other countries." He failed to give an example, but he said it's happened in many other countries. So a party who have said such and will have done exactly that, when somebody now has a semblance of doing that, they are very afraid. And they know that Peter Obi has the numbers. If Peter Obi had scored like 500,000 in the last election, they wouldn't have bothered. But for somebody who had about 6 months to prepare to move to a new party and had over 6 million, according to INEC, they are very worried. See, APC, all these, their incendiary rhetorics, they need to rein it in because our democracy is young. A lot of APC, or maybe a lot of people, they're impressionable people. Mr. Felix Moka also is a learned man. He should choose his words carefully. I see him trying to say, oh, he didn't say anything wrong. He was just saying, you don't speak in a vacuum. But when you use words like Mr. Obi is shooting from the hips, it's similar to what we see in the Wild Wild West in the movies. You're painting a picture in people's minds. You're painting a mental picture. You're talking guns, shooting from the hips. And you now finish by saying you should deal with the consequences. Whatever he gets, he should manage. You can now not tell Mr. Obi how to interpret it. Because this is Nigeria. Funshaw Williams, we know what happened. He was murdered. We don't know who did, but was murdered. Bola Ige, gone. We see political actors. There was a gentleman, I think in Anambra or Enugu State, that his car was burnt during this last election. He was going for senatorial seat. I think he was going to run for one of the senatorial seats in Enugu. I can't remember his name. He was waylaid and he was taken out. So we see these sort of things happen in Nigeria. So it is not in your place to now tell Mr. Peter Obi how to react to some of the things you've said. If you're telling him that he should deal with the consequences, he has every right to interpret it the way he deems fit. And it's now left for Mr. Moka and APC to say, oh, we didn't mean that. That's not what we mean. But in the future, be careful with the words you use. You can't be telling people you're shooting from the hips. It's like Wild Wild West. It's like the movies. Then deal with whatever you get. I don't mind a bit of, even a lot of, verbal volleyball, ping pong, whatever. You say yours, we volley back. They say theirs, they volley back. That is politics. We can speak. Use your words. If you think Mr. Obi said something that is not nice, you had the opportunity at that studio to say whatever you wanted to say. You called him a gloom and doom, whatever economist. Obedience didn't cry over that. Do you understand? So whatever you say to him, as long as his words, people would talk about it and move on. But the minute it sounds like a veiled threat, people have the right to interpret it the way they deem fit.
All right, thanks very much. Sure. Now let's come to the studio where we would like Mr. Segun Shogbuto to give us his reaction. Segun, you've been very vocal. You run a transparency and accountability outfit, and sometimes you speak truth to power. I've seen you not just in this station, in other TV stations. Has anybody ever accused you of crossing the line? Or directly, have you ever crossed the line? And what is even this line that we are talking about?
Look, I think my friends and brothers in the diaspora have said it very, very properly. If anybody has ever crossed the line, in this whole very new political process that we're experiencing now, it's the government officials. It's Bayo Ononuga with his very, very, very dangerous rhetoric. It's people like even Dr. Doyin Okukwe. You can count quite a number of people who have said very, very inflammatory stuff. And, people react and then we move on. Nobody's ever threatened anybody. This threat to Peter Obi is very unfortunate. And I guess maybe Mr. Moka didn't expect this type of reaction, right? But when the reaction came, I thought that he would have taken the opportunity was given by Arise TV to recant. He should have. But he lied. I watched the follow-up interview and he kept lying. He just kept refusing to acknowledge that it was a threat. It wasn't even veiled. When you say to somebody that you have crossed the line, whatever you get coming to you, take it like that. That's a threat. There's nothing. He was now trying to recouch it and say he was speaking about some of the things that he was asked a question and he was responding to the question. That we're not foolish people now. He threatened Peter Obi, and that was unfortunate. And I think that the DSS should invite him. Of course, we know that won't happen, but that's what should happen in other normal crimes. You get invited to say exactly. Please clarify what you meant by this thing, that you said. I think it bears saying. I mean, we speak, like you say, we speak against government all the time because I feel that it's my duty. The government, no government anywhere in the world needs praise singers. No government anywhere in the world needs it. What governments need are people that hold them accountable and demand answers from them repeatedly and consistently. And that's why the democracies that we have in the diaspora, they're working. Because in those places you ask questions, the PMQ is something that happens every week. The Prime Minister must explain himself every week on his policy stance and all of that. We expect to see that here, not so. Now, I wouldn't cross the line, right? I wouldn't cross the line, and I never have. But I just want to say that even if I did, nobody will bother with me because I didn't get 6 million votes in the last election.
It's okay, but you're doing quite a lot. You're doing quite a lot in the civil society sector, and we appreciate you for what you're doing. Now, something happened during the week, and Nnamdi Kanu, leader of the indigenous people of Biafra, has rejected the Nigerian government's request to resume his trial, insisting that Justice Binta Nyako should not preside over the case. In September 2024, Justice Nyako recused herself after Kanu expressed a lack of confidence in her impartiality. But the Chief Judge of the Federal High Court, John Chosho, returned the case file to her, arguing that Kanu's request should have been formalized through a motion. Kanu's lawyer, Aloy Jimako, opposed the prosecutor's request for a trial date, emphasizing that Justice Nyako's recusal remains valid until a competent court sets it aside. He noted that her order, established on September 24, 2024, is still in effect and has not been overturned by any subsequent ruling. Shegu, let me stay with you. I mean, someone says, look, I sense a conflict of interest. I need you to recuse yourself from my case. The judge goes ahead to do that, returns the case file to the registrar of the Federal High Court. After like 3, 4, 5 weeks, 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, the registrar returns the case to the judge. No, you have to preside over this case. What does it speak to?
It almost looks as if somebody is playing games. The end game of which we don't know. It's almost as if they don't want the trial to continue. Because, like you just said, 2 things have happened. The defendant has complained officially. They did it verbally. They didn't do a notice, a motion or notice. They just made a verbal complaint. And the woman responded and recused herself. Now you are returning the case file to say no. If they want to complain, they should do it in a motion. That's the reason that the file has been returned. And I struggle to see especially since the woman has acceded to the request. Why take it back? So for me, it looks as if somebody wanted to is trying to delay the proceedings so they can continue to hold this guy. I don't know this because at the end of the day, when the trials eventually happen, Kanu is going to be released. You can't prove terrorism charges against him. I doubt it. I don't know what they have in their prosecution files.
Do you think so?
But I doubt that. What terrorism? How do you prove that? For you to prove terrorism charges against him, you need to connect him directly with evidence to whatever violence is happening in his territory. Okay. And I don't know how they're going to be able to do that. But if they have the evidence, for goodness sake, they should tender it in court and let the man have his day and either go home or go to prison.
All right.
This limbo thing that is now all of a sudden we're playing with recusal, and all that is
all right. Thanks very much, Shegu. Now let's go to the diasporans where we have. I would like for you, Flagship, as quickly as possible to react to this incident where the Nnamdi Kanu's case file has been returned to the judge who recused herself from the trial. Like, if you can, in 1 minute, please, so that we'll move on to the major topic of discussion.
Right. I'll be quick. So if the due process is for a motion to be filed requesting that the justice recuse herself, then I think it's important that Kanu's legal team should go and do that. If they continue in this process where a verbal request was made, which was obliged by the justice, it only delayed things. If the legal process, I think I'm familiar a little bit because I've been in court once before. Motions are ways to table your request formally in court for anything you want to be done by the judge. So if this has not been done, then yes, let them go back, put in the motion to request for her to recuse herself, and then move on from there.
All right, then. Thanks very much. Now, forefathers, can we have your quick reaction to this matter now?
Yeah, thank you. I think the way the federal government has handled the case with Nnamdi Kanu is a kind of miscarriage of justice, because you are supposed to have somebody detained and knowing that you have evidence against them. And if that is the case, why is it taking so long? For the life of me, it's as if they are just using him for political, gambit, whereby they are holding him for whatever reason that they are doing it. And that tells you something about the way the people that are running the country behave. If this is a normal country, if somebody is charged with something, they go to prison. Here in the UK, the EDL leader, Tommy Robinson, I think that's his name, and he was put in jail because of what was that again? He didn't respect the court's wishes. So they don't waste time here. You mess about, you end up in jail. If Nnamdi Kanu has done something wrong, try him, put him in jail, and let the process carry on. Okay. Maybe he would have even served this time and come out by now. All right. So I don't like the way the Nigerian government has handled this, and I just hope they learn to do better. But I'm not going to hold my breath. Thank you.
All right. Thanks very much. Now, KJ, can we have your quick reaction?
Okay, thank you so much for that. I differ a bit from Mr. Flagship, because there are many other standing judgments that is in favor of Nnamdi Kanu that the Nigerian government have not bothered to execute. So why so concerned about motion that the judge has already issued a ruling on? She has already said, based on what you request, I am no longer interested. So do you have to force someone to be on a case? Where is it done? I'm not a lawyer, but I have not seen where people say, okay, I recuse myself. I once had a case in Nigeria, and the judge was not a friend of mine, but we're in the same business club. And she told whatever they call it, and that, look, this man here, we belong to the same business club, but we are not friends. I don't even know him, but I know that I see him in that business club. Are you okay with that, or do you want me to recuse myself? And the lawyer got out and said, yeah, based on that, I think there's conflicts of interest. Ma, you have to recuse yourself. And she said, okay. And the case was transferred. So if something as simple as that can happen, what more on this case? Why don't you accept what she has said and move on?
All right.
It beats me.
Okay, thanks very much, KJ. Now, to you, Sho, quick reaction so that we can move into the major topic of discussion.
All right. I think I agree with the sentiment of the previous speakers, especially what Flagship said, that file this officially, put it into writing, because the Nigerian government seems to have all the time in the world. They don't care. Nnamdi Kanu is in their custody. So for them, the longer this lasts, the better for them. I think they're enjoying it for whatever reasons personal to them. So if I was advising the Nnamdi Kanu camp, I would tell them, just write it, and let's get on with the process. Because what's the point of holding this man? Like forefathers also said, it's possible that if he had even sentenced him, he's probably coming out by now. He's been there for 5 years? So even if they sentence him now, do they go back to say, let's say they sentence him for 6 years, do they go back and say he's already spent 5, he's going to spend another 1 year? And if he's not found guilty by God, let the man go home and carry on his life. It's just not fair. It's not fair.
All right, thanks very much. And gentlemen, thanks for a very quick takes on these trending issues. Now, let's get into the major topic of discussion, which is, we'll partner with China to produce military equipment in Nigeria. That's coming from the federal government. Now, the Nigerian government has announced plans to collaborate with China to domesticate the production of military equipment, aiming to reduce reliance on foreign suppliers and the associated delays. Nigeria's Minister of Foreign Affairs, Ambassador Yusuf Tuga, emphasized the importance of local production for both kinetic and non-kinetic military needs, asserting that this approach will enhance Nigeria's capacity to lead regional security efforts without outside interference. Oh, well, during a joint press briefing with his Chinese counterpart, Wang Yi, Tsugai reiterated Nigeria's commitment to addressing its security challenges independently, rejecting the notion that private military companies could offer effective solutions. He highlighted Nigeria's responsible governance and its established role as a leader in regional peace and security, urging continued partnership with countries like China to develop local military capabilities. That's it. Mr. Shopito, let me come to you. We want to partner with China, in production of military equipment. What sort of partnership will that be? Taking into consideration that military equipment are rather, things that materials that speak to national security, national intelligence, strategic national interest. Now we are calling on China to come and help us, in the production of our military equipment. I want you to help us walk through, what are the implications, the security implications of having to, meanwhile, the same Minister of External Affairs is saying, no, we cannot outsource our intelligence, our military to foreigners, but they are inviting China to come and help us in that production. With which molds? What are if they are coming with molds for AK-47 or for, what kind of equipment is that Nigeria will have sole control over them?
It's sometimes it worries one when you hear government officials take some of these positions. It's almost as if they don't care about the country. We have a company called Defense Industries Corporation of Nigeria. DICON. Their primary mandate is to produce exactly that, military equipment, military hardware for the Nigerian military forces. They've been in existence for a very long time, and they've experienced ups and downs over the years. They even have investments. I think they've got a company quoted on the stock exchange, as a diversification effort of some sort. What's DICON doing? Why do we need China? And like you asked, to produce precisely what? There is this company somewhere in Ogun State, I can't remember the name of that company, that produces personnel carriers, APCs, beautiful, brilliant looking vehicles made in Nigeria, armored vehicles that are bulletproof. And I think that the military buys from them. Why do we need China? China is potentially the most powerful nation in the world. In a matter of another 10 years or so, we'll probably see China taking complete preeminence over even the United States. So it's not a country like that you want to go and meet to say, come and produce equipment for us. You are basically dancing naked in the market in the presence of your enemy. Because today, we're aligned, we have common economic interests. They have, a market in Nigeria that they see as the biggest in Africa, and all of that. What if something changes tomorrow? What if something changes in 10 years? Then how do you cope with the fact that these guys know exactly how your hardware operates? They know exactly what they need to do to sabotage you. In fact, what if in the process of that, they've got molds planted, within your hardware manufacturing structure? So I think this is extremely dangerous. Whoever is mooting this idea should perish the thought. Nigeria is a sovereign state, and I don't think you will see any serious country that wants to go into production of military equipment for themselves, talking about partnering with some other country, except if you have very, very strong military, strategic military arrangements with those people. So, for example, Israel and the United States, they're very, very strong in their partnerships, and they do share hardware arrangements one way or the other. But outside of that, I don't see where we have the kind of alliances with China that would justify us saying they are going to help us produce hardware.
Okay.
And, yeah.
I think the company you were referring to is Nord Motors.
Nord.
Somewhere in Ogun State. All right, thanks very much, Shegu. Now, let me come to you, Shu. I want you to contextualize the fact. I like the fact also that Shegu mentioned DICON. DICON was opened in 1964, and that was 5 years ahead of Embraer that was opened in Brazil. Sometime last year, I think sometime in July last year, Embraer delivered, it was actually, their core mandate was to produce military equipment for the Brazilian government. But last year, sometime in July last year, I think they delivered the 6,000th passenger airplane. And they are number 3. If you leave Boeing and Airbus, Embraer is about the 3rd. In terms of passenger aviation, meanwhile, they started out, just to produce military equipment. They are also into agri-aviation, where they have produced drones and aviation that used for irrigation and all of that. And that is how long? That's about 60 years or more. Yes, that one is about 60 years, and yet we are still looking for partnership. Can you help the average listener understand, how we have fared in terms of utilizing what we have to get what we want?
Of course, it's a shame to read such news. I saw the news. I watched the man speak at the joint press conference with his Chinese counterpart, and it's such a big shame that at this stage of our lives as Nigerians, we're still relying on all this sort of partnership. We don't seem to understand the importance of security, and it makes me think even outside of the box. And I think our leaders, do they even understand the danger around them? Can they even sense it, or have they just given up completely? The image I see is almost like them on their backs, and I see the Chinese, the US, the Russians tickling them. It's almost like, you have a baby on the bed and some adult is just tickling them and playing with them and make them giggle. The other day, our presidential jet, the new Tokumbo jet that was bought for $100 million, was in France being kitted. Do you even know what they are putting in that plane? It's in France, and they are kitting it for our president. The security danger that brings on its own, it's almost like we can't sense it. They cannot smell, they don't see it. So for them, anything is good. Everything we have in Nigeria is never good enough. Because you're from the southern eastern part of Nigeria, maybe it's not a thing for you, but Mr. Shopeton would understand when I say this. It used to be a running joke, at least in the southwest and maybe other places. You see anything that was substandard and they say it's made in Aba. When I was growing up, it was a thing. So that, and the National Orientation Agency have a lot of work to do. Anything that is made in Nigeria is seen as inferior. And that goes all the way from the citizens, even to the people in power, that we have to rely on China. I know China have, generally ranked as the 3rd strongest military in the world, probably behind Russia and the US. But Nigeria should be at a place where we can produce things on our own. Why are we partnering with China? Like Mr. Shopeton said, right now we are friends with China. Tomorrow, if things go sour between us, then what? They know everything. They know all our secrets. They know our weakest point. They can attack us at will. They can ground most of these things that they will help us produce. So we need to encourage local production. Everything doesn't have to be imported. Everything doesn't have to have the hand of a foreigner. But if we won't stop going to China to borrow money, how can we turn down some of the advances? Who is to say that it was suggested by Nigeria, not China? Who is to say it's not part of the agreement or part of the conditions to borrow us money? These guys would do anything to get a penny. They would borrow from anybody at whatever cost. We'll give you our crude oil for the next 20 years. Just borrow us money. We'll give you this one for the next 50 years. Just borrow us money. You would produce our military hardware. Just borrow us money. We need to start believing in made in Nigeria. We have brilliant Nigerians. And the company I think Mr. Shopeton was talking about is called Performance Defense Limited. It's in Ogun State. I think it's owned by Mr. Adedoyin. Mr. Adetokunbo or Adedoyin or something like that in Ogun State. They produce wonderful armored cars. Why don't you support such? Going away from even military. Some of the cars you see, all our Lagos State bought how many Toyotas the other day that they give to their police officers? Over 100 or 200 Toyotas and Mazdas. Why can't we support the local production lines? We have Nord, we have Innocent. Support them, because what people are saying is they are currently too expensive. But what would happen is if you support them and they are producing more, it's only a matter of time before their prices start to drop. If they are producing more, if they know there's a market, the prices will drop. We'll start to get their second-hand cars in Nigeria has become the dumping ground of the world. People are now buying cars that were used in the UK 20 years ago, and they get to Nigeria, they will say, Moto Yegbe is nice, it's clean. Clean what? Our government needs to start leading by example. Buy local, use local.
All right, thanks very much. Sure. Now, let me bring in Flagship at this point, because I want us to move away from the military aspect of it and consider the business part of it. And Flagship is a business lead person. Flagship, I want you to look at the implication of this relationship with China and how that is going to affect local industries, whether they are local industries or whether they are artisanal. Because I also know that in some parts of the country, in some parts of the south, like in Edo State, Delta State, and in Anambra State, there are local people who produce these arms, light arms and ammunition. At what point will it become effective for the government, to harness those capabilities and develop them to the point that they can now feed the Nigerian military? If DICON, essentially owned by a Nigerian government, cannot do it, at what point do you think it will become essential, to harness the capabilities of these artisanal local people that are into arms production and all of that?
I don't think it will be beneficial, and I don't think that will happen. Innocent are there. They are very cut-out examples for you to see that our local operators and manufacturers are not being patronized by the Nigerian government or the Nigerian military. So business-wise, this venture is not going to benefit Nigeria. This is one thing I can tell you. Everything, every component, and every little bolt and nut that will be used in these equipments that will be manufactured are all going to be imported. There is none that will be locally sourced. So that's money gone for us. And we don't know how much it's going to cost the Nigerian people for importing all these parts that will be used. And moving forward, even if they import them to start making them, maintenance-wise, they're still not going to source our local manufacturers who I believe have the same or an equivalent of whatever components they will use to make this equipment, to have them to maintain what has been produced by these Chinese folks. So in terms of the business aspect of it, Nigeria is not going to benefit in any way. We'll keep spending money as if we were importing the already manufactured goods. With reference to our local manufacturers that are there, they are not even seen. Was it not the other day, sometime last year, that there was a raid on a company that the Nigerian government believed was manufacturing some weapons? Why didn't they go there to consult or investigate for a start and see that if these weapons that are being manufactured are good enough for us to use, and pour money into it? It will benefit the Nigerian military and also the surrounding African nations who may also come there to buy from us. So there is no way in terms of the business aspect of it that this will enrich us. We'll only keep outsourcing the purchase of the components that will be used for this. Our local manufacturers will just keep theirs using them, maybe find one or two African nations that they can sell to. That's if the Nigerian government does not crack them down. So I don't see any economic benefit business-wise with reference to this deal that Nigeria is entering into with China. And here's my question. Why China? Why are we even doing this now? Like everybody else has said. But do we understand that we have some pending issues with the Chinese government or maybe the Chinese people? There's a business in China that is just wreaking a huge embarrassment on Nigeria as a nation, seizing all of our properties abroad. One company, not the Chinese government. We have not sorted that out. Why was that not in the front burner to say, let's fix this issue before we begin to think about any strategic partnership with Nigeria as a nation? It beats my imagination to see how our leaders enter into these agreements with foreign nations without first thinking about themselves, the nation, and the Nigerian people.
Thanks very much, Flagship. Now, let me come to you, Forefathers. Forefathers, you are an engineer, and we are talking about the military production of military equipment here. Are you worried that we have a Ajokuta steel mill that is moribund, comatose? We have a larger steel mill where Nigeria has sunk so much money, in the past how many years? We were unable to develop these two national strategic infrastructure. And we are running to China, to go and to come and partner with us in the production of military equipment. What do you think is responsible, for the government not to develop that aspect of the steel structure? Because practically everything you need, production of vehicles, production of military equipment, production of drones, airplane, and everything has to do with steel. And we have two companies that has taken billions of naira, yet we are running to foreign countries. What do you think is responsible for that?
I think it's because of the countries they have been running to all this while. They've been running to the people that colonized and enslaved their own forefathers and expecting them to give them anything. Was it not the Burkina Faso leader that said, when we wanted to buy a gun from them that is lethal, they tell us that we are not allowed to buy anything that can kill people. That's what the French was telling them. They treat them like infants. And the idea that just because the Nigerian state is looking to start manufacturing weapons with China is an issue is because people have not studied how these things are done. The Chinese got their nuclear technology from Russia. Just like others get their technology, they share technology with each other, strategic relationships. That's how it occurs. This one is not even at that level. This one is just petty, really, in terms of relationships that are supposed to put our nation on a strong footing. The Brazil that was mentioned earlier on, Brazil is a nuclear threshold. I hope we know that. If Brazil wants to go nuclear, they want to build a nuclear weapon, they can build it. Nigeria is nowhere near that. We are literally a joke right now. And if we have a relationship that the government is looking to put together to try to build weapons in Nigeria, they are looking to build it in Nigeria. Let's not forget. If our government had the freedom to work with the diaspora like in America, we have black people, highly qualified black people in America, all going to 50 million of them. Why are they not working with them? Because they know if they do that, the American government will block them. Was it not Gaddafi that wanted to give African Americans $1 billion? The American government accepted it. Then they refused it. They blocked it. So let's not pretend as if we don't know what is happening. Most of our leaders run to all these colonizers and killers. We are worrying about the hyena that is standing on the corner. When the lion has been ripping us apart all this while, we are not complaining about them. They've been feeding on us for a long time. And look at our nation. Look at the state we are in right now. And if partnership with China is going to help at least remedy some of that. China is building a lot. China manufactures, builds things very, very quickly. And if we are stupid enough that they come here to manufacture stuff and we don't learn anything from it, copy it, reverse engineer, whatever we need to reverse engineer, it's on us. Why do you think they got this advanced? Because they copied all the technology from Americans. Americans complain over and over again, but they can't do anything about it. They copy all their technologies, reverse engineer it. If they are going to come here to make weapons with Nigerian government, they should make the weapons. That way, we cut down the lead time, other weapons. You saw how our military officials are complaining about these things. I think we have not even started at all.
Okay, forefathers, I like the fact that you are going in this direction. Now, the question would be, if the Chinese people come, do you think that they will be able to transfer this technology to Nigerians? I ask this in the light of the fact that even in their companies here, their Chinese-owned companies here, they find it difficult to put Nigerians in positions of authority where they can learn. Because it's actually one of the tracks of foreign direct investment that when you come with money, you also come with technology. And the third track of it is that you transfer this technology, and we haven't seen that happen. So do you think that at this time, the Chinese people will be willing to transfer that knowledge to Nigerians?
I think they will be willing to transfer it because the technology they are looking to manufacture in Nigeria is not very sophisticated. And I don't even know why we are not even going into higher level development of some of all these armaments. The fact we act as if it's optional. It's not optional. We have to do these things if we are going to survive in this world. And that is what sometimes baffles me, the way we look at these things. It's not optional. We have to. If we are going to survive, if your children's children are going to have a future, we have to build these things. And some of these technologies that we are talking about, they are extremely sophisticated. That sometimes it takes strategic relationships to exchange it. And when we talk about strategic relationships, like right now, America is looking to build their jet fighter engines in India. They are looking to collaborate with India on space missions. They are sharing everything with India. Why are they not sharing with us? All these our leaders are running to their this capitals all the time, begging them and asking them for it. Why are they not sharing it with us? But they're sharing it with India.
Now, okay, forefathers, let me stay with you. We have people who produce, we understand that they are Nigerians, you know, who produce a pump action locally. Why is it difficult for the government, you know, to harness the talents of these people, the creativity of these people? Must it be the Chinese people? We are talking about reverse technology. I mean, what else do we need? We have local people that can produce these things. Why can't we support them and make it a government, like a national asset, if we can? Must we go to China? That is the question.
There's one angle where you say you may need to go to China to manufacture some things. But in terms of local support for the manufacturing processes in Nigeria, I've said it before, the Nigerian government, they are not serious. They stand their people down. If you look at the way they are behaving, why do you think they are not recruiting into their military? They are in the security forces. You can create 2 million jobs today in Nigeria to fix the national security issue that the country is having. We are losing in excess of $10 to $50 billion every year due to insecurity. That is one of the best economic investment you can put if you recruit 2 million people to secure the country. But do you see the government doing it? They are not doing it. They are standing us down. That is why they don't support locally manufactured cars. They are willing to go and buy Toyota from overseas. If the Nigerian government was using Nigerian manufactured vehicles for the last 10, 20 years, they will be selling it all over Africa right now. Nigerian foreign exports will be increased. We'll have this in foreign currency, foreign exchange coming into the country. Nigerian currency will be stronger. Nigerian economy will be more diversified. But do you see them doing it? These people don't appear to be even patriotic. Even it's almost as if they hate their own people. I don't understand why our leaders do what they do. Maybe there is a game they are playing, hoping that their enemy fall and die. No, their enemy is not going to fall and die. If we don't start acting in our own interest to secure our future, there will be consequences. Let's face it.
All right.
Sins of thy fathers will come back to haunt us in the future.
All right. Thanks very much, forefathers. Now, KJ, to you, KJ, what do you think, you know, are the implications, you know, of Nigeria's relationship with China? And this is an addition, you know, to the ones we already have. We have 5 MOU signed with them when our president visited Beijing. Now we are collaborating with them in production of military equipment. What do you think is the overall implication of this relationship? Do you think Nigeria is going to favor Nigeria in the long run?
Well, at a very dismal point, you know, dismal level, maybe, yeah, give some few people employment for the moment, but know that we're going to really get anything valuable, much more than just simple, you know, low-level employment. Now, having said that, don't we used to have a company in Nigeria called NDIC? I thought they were manufacturing some hardware, military hardware. Why didn't we think of improving on that? Are we lacking engineers in Nigeria? The Ogbunigwe people are still very much around in the East. Now, I just want you to understand how we live. You know, we measure in the minor and minor in the major. Okay, if we wanted to manufacture, really go into that aspect, why do you go to China? Just like Professor have said, why don't you even continue with the Russia that you've been dealing with for a while now? Why go to China? And there's no how Chinese will give you a modern equipment. Rather, they will give you what they have already done away with that is probably not very consequential at the present level of warfare. So all I'm saying is that sometimes I doubt if the leaders really take into account what kind of partnership they're going into and what will be the resultant effect. Let it not be that somebody is taking Nigeria to, you know, to trade for himself, make opportunities for his family and himself, you know, and then you turn around and say you are doing it on behalf of the interests of Nigerians. Look at the Chinese companies in Nigeria. How many of them have been able to transfer technology? Even they transfer the technology of making clothes, you know, simple things as making clothes. It's not the same Chinese people who are now in Lagos teaching Nigerians as if they are, you know, still being under a colony. I mean, I don't get it. I don't really get it. I know that, yeah, China is one of the powers that is emerging, but we should not sell our country because they are available to help us. I know that China builds things, you know, quite fast, yes, but at the same time, what is Nigeria going to lose in the process? Are we going to finally losing our, you know, sovereignty, like some people have said? if eventually these things are built and we're not able to pay for it, they will now take over our national assets, and probably take over our land and maybe some states. Who knows? So I'm simply saying they're not there for our interest, and no foreign government, it doesn't matter who they are, can come into Africa and take, be able to provide what we need, because it's already in their mindset that Africa is supposed to be a raw material producing continent. And so you have to be delivered, just like the guy in Burkina Faso is doing. I mean, he said that no, we're no longer going to be exporting our gold. We also will build our factory and then make our gold, finished product. And we're not going to longer going to be exporting raw tomato. And so he's setting up, that is how people who want to, not just Jojo. You talk big policies, you talk big plans, and at the end of the year to year, we find and we see nothing. All of them is just mouth. It's time for us to begin to put the things action. And I don't think China is the way forward. Thank you.
All right. Thanks very much, KJ. Unfortunately, Nigeria has spent so much money, in excess of how much? $8 billion on a Jokuta steel mill. We also know that people like Innocent Chukuma, that's the Innocent Motors, also produce military hardware. But the government seems not to be looking in that direction. Well, thanks very much, gentlemen, for your very insightful thoughts. We'll go on a short break, and now when we come back, we'll look at demolition of landmark research bit and its impact, on the drive for foreign direct investment by this government. Please stay with us and don't go away.
Catch up with the latest topics making the buzz, the stories that tick, the trends. Let's let you in on why they are trending. From politics, entertainment, business, lifestyle, and more. Analyzing the trending stories with top eyeballs. Hashtag on Voice of the People Television. Giving you an insight to everything and everyone Nigeria is talking about. Showing on VOP TV, 10 p.m. Monday to Friday. Hashtag, if it's trending, we bring it on. Are you ready to connect with distinguished Nigerians around the world? The Diaspora Perspective is here to share the views of Nigerians in the diaspora on burning issues.
From the street of New York, the royal cities of London, and the bustling cities of Europe, Voice of the People Television brings to you a roundtable and collage of interesting views from Nigerians in diaspora.
Join the host of the show and some Nigerians in diaspora, Dr. Damages, the flagship, Show, and KJ, as they discuss the experiences, challenges, and triumphs of Nigerians living abroad.
Discussing and analyzing everything from politics, culture, policies, career success, and how Nigerians are staying connected to their roots. Showing every Saturday by 2 p.m. West African time and 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time.
The Diaspora Perspective, giving a voice to Nigerians abroad.
All right there, welcome back and thanks for staying with us. And if you are just joining us, this is Diaspora Perspective Show on Voice of the People Television. Now let's get into the second topic of discussion. The demolition of the landmark beach resort front last year in Lagos has continued to raise concerns among investors, leading some to consider scaling back their investments in Nigeria or relocating to other African jurisdictions. The Northcote report titled Nigeria's Real Estate Market Review H1 2024 highlights that the landmark group's $200 million resort, which contributes significantly to tax revenue, was removed to accommodate the planned Lagos-Calabar Coastal Highway. The move has raised alarms about Nigeria's reputation for policy inconsistency and a lack of stakeholder consultation. High inflation rates, officially at 33.95% as of May, that is May last year, are exacerbating challenges in the real sector by increasing construction costs and diminishing project viability. The report indicates that construction expenses have surged by over 78% year on year, further complicating the already strained market. Now, this economic environment has led to a decline in foreign direct investment, FDI, limiting access to capital for real estate and construction projects and contributing to unfavorable business conditions. Now, despite these challenges, the chief executive of NORTHCORD, Mr. Ayo Ibaru, projects a potential growth of 7.24% in the Nigerian real estate market, estimating its value could reach $2.14 trillion by the end of 2024. Residential real estate is expected to dominate with projected market volume of $1.77 trillion. However, the sector still faces significant hurdles, including difficulties in obtaining long-term financing and limited mortgage availability, which restricts access to the majority of the population. Shegu, it's good that you're still here with me. We've been talking and talking and talking. Now, let's look at the demolition of the landmark resort. I don't want us to get into the politics of, Lagos State government they didn't give papers, it's because it's an Igbo man, the Minister of Works is an Igbo man. I don't want us to get into all of that. I want us to look at the demolition, its impact, in the foreign direct investment drive of this administration. I mean, our president has been all about town, Europe, China, Brazil, and all of these places, looking for foreign direct investors. He even went to Brazil and cried out, look, we need help. There's hunger. Farmers can't even go to farm, and secure some deals like $2.5 billion for cow production and all of that. Yet, the local investors, Nigerian investors that we have, this government cannot even protect them. What do you think will be the impact of that demolition on the FDI drive of this administration?
I think this is it, because landmark, if you've not been to landmark resorts before, the beachfront, then you missed. That place was, it was awesome. It was quite an experience, I've been there on a couple of occasions with my family. And I was shocked when I heard that this thing was demolished. There's just not far after landmark, a number of other cinema houses, and all of that also exist on that axis. And right now, some of them are either been demolished or they have become inaccessible because the road has shifted their access routes behind embankments and walls. That makes them pretty much, they're just there. How can you say that you are looking for foreign direct investment when your own local investments you cannot even protect? What kind of government seeking economic development is willing to go on this destructive rampage the way this government has done, with this Lagos Calabar thing? When you listen to Paul, what's his name, the landmark guy, talk,
Paul Owunibe,
the amount of money that he says they lost, and the amount of money that he's now having to remobilize afresh to relocate his business, one, outside Lagos, he's going to Port Harcourt to site his headquarters, and two, outside of Nigeria. He has not disclosed the two countries that he's going to, but he's leaving Nigeria. And yet we say that we're looking for foreign direct investment. I've always said that if you want foreign direct investment, you don't need to go on any foreign trips. All those things are just jamborees to chop money. You don't need any foreign trip. All you need to do is fix your local investment environment. Fix your economy, fix electricity, fix the regulatory environment, fix the ease of doing business issues. Business registration, tax administration, just make these things conducive. Monies will rush into this country, So you say you are looking for foreign direct investment, and then you go on a destructive rampage because you are building a road that maybe not we need. Excuse me, sir. What we need in this country today to fast track, to trigger economic development in terms of transportation is not a coastal road, it's rail. What this effort should have gone into is building a rail line that will connect Lagos down through the coast all the way to the east and to the south, and another one from Lagos to Sokoto to Maiduguri.
There's a rail line embedded in that.
I understand, but the destruction that is involved is for me, it's not worth it. I don't think that a cost-benefit analysis was done. And in fact, I can tell you, you say we shouldn't go into the policies, and I agree. But I can tell you that...
No, but we can also chime in on it.
There was more, there is more in that whole thing than just the noise we hear about infrastructure development. The whole bidding process was shrouded in secrecy, breaking all our laws on public procurement completely. There was no public bid. And at the end of the day, the company that gets awarded coincidentally happens to be a chummy body of the president. High tech, is a chum and a body for decades of the president. How does that happen? And yet, in that process, we're destroying and destroying and destroying. I think that it's really unfortunate. It's very clear to me that the best interest of Nigeria is not really at the heart of anything that is happening around us today. So I will quickly land on this. If you want to fix Nigeria, if this president wants to fix this country today, there are just a few things that he will fix, and he will become a hero forever. In 2027, he will get even obedience will reluctantly, they will reluctantly vote for him. Let the president get us 20,000 megawatts of electricity between now and 2026. And it's possible. It's technically possible. Let him fix our steel industry, either by fixing Ajaokuta, or if, just like our transmission infrastructure, if it has become moribund, provide the policy framework for small modular steel factories to be established quickly within the next 2 years, and then see the explosive economic unlocking and unleashing of economic potential and development in this country, and tell me who is going to argue against that. But instead of that, what we have been seeing is either business as usual, or in fact, things that look like state capture, whether it's Lagos, Calabar, or the refinery debacle, and all of the importation rumors that we hear from refineries that apparently belong to some people. It's all crazy. This project for me is not even going to go anywhere. Just mark my words. Let's watch where we will be.
Sometimes
let's watch where we will be in 5 years.
It beats one to think that the people in government do they listen at all? They don't seem to think the way ordinary people think, and one begins to wonder what is the problem. Anyway, let's get a reaction from the diasporans. KJ, I'll come to you direct now. I want you to consider the fact that after the demolition of the landmark beach resort and other properties along that route, the project has stalled. Not just that the project is stalled, they also had to, meanwhile, that was in the original direction, the original route. So after that destruction, they now, according to them, they carried out an environmental impact assessment and discovered that there were cables, underground cables along that route. What does that tell you? Is there some form of underhand or underground, how can I put it?
It tells me that we are working with who do not plan. They will before we about where we're going to land.
No, is it that it was premeditated to just pull down those structures and go back to the original line, or is it that they just didn't plan?
It seems to me that it was originally to pull down that man's business while trying to look for foreign investment. Because if not that reason, anybody, if you say you had a construction company, they will have mapped out what was lying ahead of the construction they're going to have. So, but it was more just like the landmark guy said. He had guests in the hotel. He had everybody there. People were on the beach, and all of a sudden this started happening. And then eventually, only for you to find out some months later that you didn't even do your proper homework, and your principal is going around the whole world looking for investors. This is an investor who most times entertain foreign guests, and some of them probably, what do you think to tell their people or other tourists that are coming to Nigeria of how they have been treated or how people's business are treated? So we have not been able to, first of all, put proper framework on the ground concerning the protection of people's investment.
Okay, KJ. Sorry, KJ.
Yes,
KJ, you let us also be very fair, to the government, because Paul Onwunaibe, the owner of Landmark, said that, look, he was given 7 days notice. But after the notice was given, for 7 months, nothing happened. Do you,
Sir,
do you think he too was careless on his part not to have approached the government to say, this is what and what we can do? And all of a sudden,
Okay.
do we actually blame the government? After the government gave 7 days notice, and for more than 6 months, nothing happened, and he didn't, look the word of government to say, how can we resolve this logjam?
Oh, okay. Let us also look at what is best in international best practice. So what is Nigeria losing by the demolition that happened to this man's business? We lost foreign exchange. We lost jobs. We also lost places, that is destination that people can refer as a destination in Nigeria. So what are we losing? Are we losing more or we're gaining more? We're losing more. That's one. Secondly, if you're sinking millions of dollars on the ground, first and foremost, you are rattling your head what you're going to do and all that. And of course, knowing the Nigerian environment, he's also trying to see who he can talk to whilst this is going on. So you can see all that the variable is playing out. I will not, blame the man for any reason. Why? Because that company didn't start yesterday. And then, if you remember the discussion that Chidoka, the former minister of former team, said, if they just bought to look at road safety, statistics on how many people fly that road, how many people fly that road, you won't have no need to put a huge money into it because I know not. You will have probably been able to see and expand other roads that have more traffic and people can travel and more business. But to have less than 30% of people flying that road on daily basis, what is the economic value? It's just like we said we did under Amechi. We made the railway going to Maradi. How many people to Maradi? What's the economic value of Maradi to Nigeria? Nothing. So you see, this thing didn't start yesterday. Being on, people wake up and if they think that Mr. Chukwuma's house they want that choice land, they will look for a reason to say it should be taken off, and that is it. And even if you don't like it, even if you go to court, court give you their own, and they are doing different things. So basically, if we want to attract foreign, I don't know, Mr. Chukwuma, how many foreign presidents have come to Nigeria to look for foreign investment as we go around crying around the world, begging people to come? People will not come. They will look at the environment you have created. That is what attracts investment. Not when you have Nigerians being refugees in Nigeria and you're going to ask people to come and invest in what? Who is going to buy it? How do you recover your money? Thank you, sir.
All right. Well, maybe anyway, solution provision. Providing solutions. If we have a company that can come here to invest, to provide services to our IDPs, is that not foreign direct investment? If you ask me. Oh, well, thanks very much, KJ. Now, let's go to Flagship. Now, Flagship, you are a business person, I want you to look at, last year, I think by September last year, this government said that they had attracted $30 billion worth of foreign direct investment. Now, on the one hand, they ended up destroying locally owned investment here. Shegu Shokpito just mentioned, aside from Landmark, there was another investment along that route that was valued at $250 million or more. Now, I want you to put these things together. $30 billion investment received, more than $3 billion destroyed, and the economic value of that portion of land that those properties had to give way to. Can you help us understand all of that?
Well, it makes no sense at all. So yes, 30 billion secure. Where is it? Where is the 30 billion? In what? Have you heard anything else outside that 30 billion? But here are businesses that are established already, that are already making money. And if you want to quantify the amount of money that these businesses has made and will make within now and whenever that road is completed, I bet you it will outweigh the benefits, the economic benefits of that road that is being constructed. So the Nigerian government, so to say, places no value in or interest in itself. It's local investors, the business entrepreneurs that are in Nigeria, but so to say, cater more to those that are outside. Here in Atlanta, there is a highway in Atlanta here, there's a highway called 285, right? 285 goes around the entire city of Atlanta in a circle, right? With a minimum in some areas of 3 lanes. But in some areas, it expands to about 6 lanes on both sides. Now, Atlanta is a growing city. Since the Olympics in 1996, Atlanta exploded right after that Olympics. They constructed that road to decongest traffic. But as we are today, it's still growing at a huge rate. And traffic is a big problem. For those of you that have visited Atlanta, you will know. Now, the government, a couple of years ago, I think maybe about 10 years ago, decided to figure out a way to decongest traffic in Atlanta. And what they came up with is to reconstruct another 285, which will be another highway that will be outside of this one that currently exists, so that it can decongest traffic. It's going to go around the city as the old one is. But when they started looking at the effect it would have on businesses, the effect it would have on communities, the effect it will have on the people, this is 12 years going. They're still talking about it, negotiating to try to figure out what can go and what can stay. If this is going to go, how is it going to affect the business in the city? How is it going to affect the people? How would it affect the communities that are around? You just don't wake up and say, knock that off, I'm going to do a road pass here. If the government decides today, or if my county today decides to run a road right across my home, and I choose not to accept or agree, they cannot force me to tear down my house because there's a road that has to go through here. They have to find a way to negotiate with me and make sure that whatever is agreed on would financially benefit me. If for nothing, at least find another place for me where I can build a home that is equivalent to this, or maybe better, with some more compensation on top of it.
Okay.
Tourism has been killed and destroyed in Lagos. I've not been to Landmark, but I've heard so much about it. Dubai today, that is the tourist capital of the world, it's things like this, resorts like this, that make it what it is today.
All right.
Why can't the government think of a bypass? There is what they call bypass. You can go past that tourist attraction that is there, that resort that is there, rather than tearing it down with no compensation.
Okay.
What is 7 days notice? And I'll end with this. What is 7 days notice? Who makes a decision with a huge business of that magnitude in 7 days to think of an alternative when you didn't provide one? So I think that this is in no interest meant to benefit the Nigerian people. It's just a project, an elephant project that will never see the light of day in the next 20 years. Yes, I said 20 years. Mark it down. That road will never be done.
All right, thanks very much, Flagship. Now, sure, let me come to you. Sure, I'd like for you to tell the viewer at home, how much tourism contributes to UK economy, if you can. How much do you think? What impact? What's the role of tourism to the UK economy? Quickly.
Right. I don't have the exact figures, but I know that there's a lot of tourism in the UK, especially if you go to London, especially around Westminster. I used to walk very close to Westminster, and it was, it's always filled with tourists around the year, winter, summer. It doesn't matter to the tourist. Some people go to the Buckingham Palace that is not, too far from Westminster as well. So UK is always looking to welcome tourists. You wouldn't see them do similar thing that just happened with Landmark. The more money the UK can get, the better for them. They don't have as much mineral resources as we're blessed with in Nigeria. So the last thing they would do is to discourage tourism. They encourage tourism. I think they were trying to build something similar to Disney World, even in Kent. So things like that would always happen. They're building shopping malls like Westfield all across London, which would attract investors, which would attract people to the UK. With regards to Landmark, just to touch up on that quickly. I listened to the man Paul. I can't remember his last name.
Paul
Onwebe. Yes, I listened to him, and some of these things he said. It's just gut wrenching, because he mentioned that in the last year they paid 10 billion in tax. That's gone. He also mentioned that they employed over 4,000 people. And he talked about the dependency factor, that every employee in Nigeria is responsible for about 16 people. For easy calculation, even if you say they're responsible for 15 people, so that's 60,000 people that have been affected by the loss of job of these 4,000 employees of Landmark. He talked about the over 200 contracts that they had to revisit one after the other. People who supply from toiletries to groceries to food and all these other things. It's not just Landmark. A lot of businesses, families, individuals have been affected by this. He talked about three presidents from within Africa contacted him to say, come to us. And 12 states in Nigeria said, come to us. So it's a loss to Lagos State. Only the Lagos State and the federal government understand what they stand to benefit by knocking down the structure. But it's a loss to Lagos State because now they've gone to Port Harcourt and they're going to go to 2 African countries. I mean, it's such a disservice to the president who is actively going around seeking foreign direct investment. I said it on this show a few weeks ago. If you're looking for investment, the first people you want to attract are Nigerians who are not looking to take the money out. People like myself, people like forefathers, people like, Nigerians in diaspora. And Nigerians in Nigeria, they're the ones you want to first encourage to invest in Nigeria. Even our politicians, some of them cutting away our money. There's a reason why they don't invest in Nigeria. You should ask yourself that. They take money from our collective pot and they take it overseas because they know that investment in Nigeria is not safe. That's the reason why they don't invest in Nigeria. If I took money to Nigeria, £10,000 or £100,000 2 years ago, and I made 20% profit, if I try to take it back in Naira, I'll be losing. But if you make the place conducive for people to invest, if I bring my money, let's say £100,000 today, I'm not looking to take it out because the ultimate goal is to come and retire in Nigeria, and I don't mind my money being there in Naira. This is the main reason why you see a lot of investors, when they come to Nigeria, they want to take out their money. They want assurance that they can take out their money in dollars. And that is why you have the issue with Qatar Airways and people like that. They want guarantees that if I bring $100,000, let's say I make 10%, I want to take out my money, investment and profit in dollars.
All right.
And you're busy knocking down, Landmark. The interview that man did is such a bad PR for Nigerian business. And at no point did he say, don't invest in Nigeria. But he said something that quite interesting, and I would end on this. He said he's learned a lot of lessons. He said people should still invest. He said, but because he lived most of his life in the UK, he actually lives in the UK. He said in the UK, you don't need to know anybody to invest, to do business. He said, but in Nigeria, I've learned to know people. He said, I'm not trying to say do anything wrong, because he had to say that. But he said, you need to know people in government to do business in Nigeria, and it shouldn't be so.
Quite unfortunate, it shouldn't be so. Now forefathers, let's have your quick reaction as possible as you can to summarize it. Now, in the light of what has happened, do you think that many investors, I'm not looking at like foreign investors who open their eyes and come to Nigeria to invest in the light of what happened to Landmark? Because the news was everywhere, Africa, globally. People got to talk about it, in hushed tones. And it was like, look at what is going on in Nigeria and all of that. And the president is coming here asking us to come and invest in Nigeria. Do you think anybody will open his eyes and come to Nigeria? Quick one, summary, please, if you can.
Yeah, I think that wouldn't prevent people. That's in terms of the Landmark Act itself. It's not very good, but in terms of being decisive in what will come invest in Nigeria, I think impunity in Nigeria and insecurity But that said, the idea of the project itself is something that is supposed to be tied to the continental free African trade infrastructure. If you look at the United States, it continues to be side. Hence, South doesn't have a route going through it to go through the South somehow. There is something wrong with the country when we just do this thing and you see people just pretend as if they don't understand what they are saying. And I like the man because that man is a very, very patriotic Nigerian and is a very, very decent human being. And from what I gather, he lost about $30 million plus because of what the Nigerian government has done. And they completely messed it up. And I just hope that make the effort to actually compensate those people for what they've done, and if possible, revitalize that area that they've destroyed. It's just something that needs to be done. But how can I say? I wish they do these things, but I don't know whether they will.
We just wish. Thanks very much. And Paul Onwunimbe said that as at the time he granted that interview, and that was last week, he was yet to receive 1 naira in terms of compensation. Oh, well, let's just believe that, and let's hope that the government will do the needful. Now, let's go into this final topic of discussion, which is more like, how can I explain this? They say Nigeria's unity is non-negotiable, but people have said, no, we can negotiate. Sunday Igboho says, Igbo, Yoruba, and others should go their ways if Nigeria is not working. Now, Sunday Adeyemo, popularly known as Sunday Igboho, has expressed that many Nigerians feel ashamed to identify as citizens due to issues like corruption, insecurity, and a struggling economy. Well, I think Sunday is speaking for himself. Now, in a recent video from the UK, he highlighted the growing lack of patriotism among the populace. Igboho advocates for the right of various ethnic groups to pursue independence if Nigeria cannot function effectively as a united nation. He believes that the challenges facing the country warrant a re-evaluation of its unity. He emphasized the potential of Yoruba youths who have gained valuable global experience to transform the Yoruba nation into a prosperous society akin to European standards. Their knowledge, he argues, could significantly contribute to the development and modernization of the Yoruba land. Sheikhs, let me come to you. Sunday Igboho is speaking again at the heart of our unity. They say Nigeria's unity is non-negotiable. Anyway, I'd like for you to have your quick reaction. I'm not supposed to have an opinion on this show, but if you ask me, I'm a person that believes that, look, our diversity, there is a lot we can gain from our diversity. So I'd like for you to give us your quick reaction and then your concluding thoughts on all that we talked about.
I mean, it's ironic that Sunday Igboho says this, but he's saying it from the UK. Okay. So I guess he's already signed off. Look, and that's without prejudice to my brothers on the show. Look, in my opinion, one of the biggest strengths that Nigeria has is our diversity, like you said, and our size. It's not, I don't think people understand what the implications and the value, the economic value of size. That you have 250 million people. If you had good leadership and you can monetize that, we are literally sitting on gold in this country. And we are supposed to be a top 5 economy globally if we fix leadership. And that's the conversation we need to be having, not this very lazy. I consider this lazy, like you say, if Nigeria can't work, let's go our way. Excuse me, sir, I'm a Yoruba man. See, in this Yoruba land, if you know the kind of disunity that we have, the kind of deep-seated hatred between Yoruba people, different tribes, and I know it's not necessarily very different in the East. I was listening to a guy who was speaking, the guy is Igbo, and he was talking about some particular ethnic people who are Southeasterners, but they're not Igbo speaking. And he named them in Enugu, those states that border Benue, Cross River. The divisions in this, if you go up north, Kanuri, Hausa, Fulani. People will say Hausa, Fulani. There's nothing like Hausa, Fulani. There's Hausa, there's Fulani. And in that northern Nigeria, we now know that it's not homogeneous. So why do we think that by going our separate ways, we'll solve any problem? If we go our separate ways, the same problems that we have in this big one, we're simply going to carry them over into the smaller units and continue as we are. Because the reasons we have these problems here will go with us. It's our laziness. It's our refusal to engage. It's our refusal to get involved and to hold our leaders accountable. It's the fact that the leaders have conquered us. They've monetized poverty. I can go on and on. So the solution is not for us to say, let's take the one single thing that is our biggest strength, which is our size, and throw it into the dustbin because we cannot hold our leaders accountable. The solution is for us to sit together and find a way to get our president and all of the other leadership across into the subnationals to do the things that will unlock the ridiculously massive potential that this country has. You know, so please let's discourage this.
I mean, it's quite
balkanization.
That some people are talking in this direction.
Yeah.
Now let me come to you, forefathers. Forefathers, I'd like to have your quick take on this matter, if you can, like 90 seconds, 1 minute, 30 seconds, please. And I mean, this issue of Nigerians should go their separate ways if it can't work, and your concluding thoughts on this show, please.
Thank you for that. Like the guest said, I think it is very lazy and quite dangerous thinking, actually, because this type of elements can be used as destabilization agents to their own nations. And because some of these people that say these things, like the guest highlighted the divisions within tribes. When the woman came here, they were fighting each other like cat in a bag. Like the woman didn't have a lot of trouble taking over everything. And some of all these people forgot that we were our nations before the woman came, and look at what he did for us. He didn't do anything for us. Instead of us to be planning for the future, the whole world is ganging up and forming bigger blocks. NATO is made up of nations that make up almost 1 billion, and China alone is 1.4 billion. And you want to cut yourself down to reduce your size even more so that you are more susceptible to being controlled and enslaved and maybe even exterminated. Some of these people are dangerous, and people, the government should be making sure that they discourage some people from doing what they are doing, and elders should be talking to them and reminding them of history. That if they carry on like this is not a joke business. This is survival. We are fighting for our lives here. Personally, most Africans don't realize that they are fighting for their life because they don't understand geopolitics. They don't understand that there are continent killers out there that have destroyed continents. They think we are just here joking around. But sooner or later, we are all clear. But regarding the show itself, I will try to say for our people all the time, we have to be a little bit more daring. We have to open our eyes to this world, and don't be afraid to knock doors that have never been knocked before, because this period is a time of opportunity. The world is in flux. If we don't take the advantage that is existing right now, the gates that have been opened, we are not going to be here anymore. If the West and the Asians settle their differences, like the way the Europeans settled their differences before the Berlin conference, if that happens and we are still here, our future is completely in peril for the next, I don't even know how long.
All right, thanks very much, forefathers. Now, let me come to you, Sure, I would like for you to, do you think we should go our separate ways, and can we have your concluding thoughts as quickly as possible, as quickly as you can?
Yes and no. You know, I like the idea of Nigeria, but it hasn't worked for people. It doesn't work. It's only human nature to seek alternatives. I agree that our strength should be in our number, in our diversity, and all of that. But you can also understand the people who are saying the way we've been put together, the current structure, the way it's been run, it hasn't worked for us. So for most people, they're like, let's try something else. How worse can it get? Now, you cannot make the argument that you don't want to find out because it will be worse for you. But for them, they're thinking, all my life, I've been a Nigerian. All I know is Nigeria, but it's not working. And they'll make the argument of smaller nations who are doing better and that we can be smaller nations and go and join AU and the rest of it. So you have to look at it from both sides. You can't just turn down the conversation completely and say, have that conversation. They're genuine to try something else. And for Sunday, Oloye Sunday, it's quite funny that he's in the UK asking for separation. The UK are the ones that put us together. They are the strongest hand that is keeping us together because it works for them to keep us together.
All right.
Him going to them and submitting a letter at 10 Downing Street, that letter is somewhere in the trash can. They're not going to look into it. They're not interested. It is in their best interest that we're kept together the way we are.
All right, thanks very much. Sure, I appreciate you so much. Now, let me come to you, KJ. KJ, should we go apart, or should we part ways, or should we restructure? Which one? What do you think? Hello, KJ.
KJ's had to leave us. He's dropped off.
Okay. Now, Flagship, let me come to you. Flagship, what do you think? Should we restructure, or should we go our separate ways?
I mean, it's like saying if it's not running very well, let's just dump it and tear it apart, and each part of the car should be driven separately. It will not work. Yes, I agree that Nigeria has not worked for us since its inception. But what we need to do is to come together and figure out what is not working and demonstrate the ability to fix it. Those that are asking for cessation have also not been able to demonstrate the ability to live together, have one voice, and come up with something that works for them as a unit. If they have been able to do that, then yes, maybe we can have that conversation of cessation. But like they always say, and I'll end with this, variety is the spice of life. The differences we have more strength in our differences than what separates us. So I think we need to go back, take a look at the whole structure, figure out what is not working, fix them or take them out, and forge a way ahead. We stand a greater chance being together than separated.
All right, thanks very much, Flagship. And that's this is where we wrap up this show. Gentlemen, I can't thank you enough for your time and for your very insightful thoughts. I've been speaking with Mr. Segun Shokbetor. Segun Shokbetor is the chairman, Accountability, Candor and Transparency Network. He joined me here in the studio in Lagos. Segun, thanks for coming. Thanks for having me. I appreciate your time and presence. We're also joined by the Flagship. The Flagship is a clinical research operations lead and business entrepreneur based in Atlanta, Georgia, United States of America. We had KJ. KJ is in media production. He's a training expert and joined us from Maryland. We also had Sho. Sho is an IT expert with interest in international politics and development and joined us from Kent, United Kingdom. We also had Forefathers. Forefathers is an engineer with interest in strategic studies, international politics and development. Gentlemen, thanks very much for being on the show. Oh, well, the show comes up every Saturday from 3 to 5 p.m. That's West African time, and I think 9 to 11 Eastern Standard Time. We encourage you to click on the like button and subscribe to our page. On YouTube, we are at Voice of the People TV, and on other social media platforms, we are at VOP TV Live. You can also visit our website for more interesting stories. We are at www.vop.ng. Please keep a date with us next week for another interesting edition. I am Chukwuma Okoro, and from me here, it's enjoy the rest of your weekend and bye for now.